Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here in the Second Step Educator community. My name is Matt Pearsall. I am the community manager here from Committee for Children, and I am really excited to be able to bring you this month's Second Step Community Member Spotlight. And actually today we've got two spotlights going. We're going to be meeting a couple of people. We're going to be meeting Tara Lambden, who's the principal at Belvedere Elementary in the Anne Arundel County School District, along with Sue Young, who's the school counselor there. I'm telling us a little bit about the work that they are doing right now to support kids, social emotional learning. So Sue and Tara, feel free to come online and love for you to be able to introduce yourselves.
All right, good morning. As Matt said, I'm Tara Lambden, principal at Belvedere Elementary School in Anne Arundel County in Maryland. Our elementary school serves about 480 students, pre-K to 5. We are virtual. We've been virtual since last March, and we remain that way for the foreseeable future. So that just gives you a little background about how we're currently operating. And you know, when I think about my role as principal with social emotional learning, I think for me, my most important job is to ensure that I have both the structures and the staff in place to support social and emotional learning for all students.
Mm-hmm. Good morning. My name is Sue Young, and I'm the school counselor at Belvedere Elementary School in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And I see my role as school counselor as a dual focus of both preventative and responsive services to support student success in the area of social emotional learning. Second Step in the implementation of daily morning meetings supports both areas, but in different ways, as we'll talk about. And it's essential in this process to also include the school staff and students, as well as the parent and community in teaching and developing social emotional skills.
That's great. So I'm interested to hear about some of the work that you're doing to support your students' social emotional learning. I've been told that you guys are doing some pretty cool stuff, but I know as much as everybody else who's watching right now. So I would really love to hear a little bit about what you're doing on the ground.
Sure. Well, when we were thinking about social emotional competence and self-regulation skills with our students, we were really finding over the years that our students were really lacking in those areas. They had a very low tolerance for frustration, and that was with social issues with one another and academics. And they were having a hard time persevering and pushing through those frustrations. So we wanted to kind of build that tolerance, give them tools and strategies and skills. So we had a few other schools in the district that were using Second Step. We had heard some really good things, so we decided we were going to adopt this school-wide last year. We were very intentional about how we brought this to our school. We started with a school-wide professional development in August when teachers returned. And we wanted to be sure that this was one message, one program, everybody on board here at Belvedere. So we used the scope and sequence from Second Step to create a calendar for each grade level. Everybody was a part of that, and that kind of kept us on track, kept everything consistent. And one of the ways we did this was we really dedicated our instructional schedule. The very first part of our day, right after announcements, is that morning meeting time where we are building community and teaching these skills with our students. Even in this virtual setting, that was our number one most important piece, was that we wanted to ensure that we were building those relationships with community with kids. And so this is how we started our day. We also ensured that part of what we wanted to do is we really believed, in order to make this school-wide, that all staff members, regardless of what their role was in the building, that they were a part of this. So we kind of buddied various staff members with every classroom, and they were in for the Second Step instruction every day. And we really saw the benefits of that, because that was common language across the school, common approaches, strategies, prompting that really made a difference for our children last year and this year.
That's
so
cool.
How are we doing this virtually?
Yeah,
that was the piece that we really wanted to preserve this year and bring on in the virtual setting.
I like that you picked out frustration and helping students to manage frustration is sort of the thing that brought you into doing Second Step in social emotional learning. That's not the number one thing that I hear a lot, and I really appreciate it. It says to me, you know, that there's a lot of different ways to come at it and a lot of different ways to emphasize it. What are some of the things that you pull out of the Second Step program in order to kind of target that particular issue that you were seeing?
I think one of the things that we've done is we've really looked at in teaching staff about this program and also our families, that we think about the building nature of learning skills, then empathy, then emotion management, and then problem solving. And we really felt it was important to be consistent about looking at student needs. So we developed a data tracking system that I used. So any referral to school counseling, whether it be from student self-referred, teacher, or parent, I began to track at the beginning of last year which category it was primarily addressing. And then we were able to look at the end of each marking period at our data to inform multiple areas. So one way that we used data was to say, okay, emotion management is an area of concern. And we were seeing that held true in our data. So we developed small group interventions, or I did small group interventions with school counseling related to building resiliency and emotion management, and really focused in on which students needed that and which grade levels needed that. We also worked with parents, and I think that's a big shift that we've seen this year, is that last year we were doing a lot of building looking at that, building this program within the school building. This year, as parents are now doing this blended role of teacher, supporting the teaching and the education in a different way, we've continued to provide community-based parent workshops rather in the evenings, to allow for there to be more, for them to also get the same strategies. And we provide opportunities for families to have access to those strategies as well. So I think the data really helped to inform our next steps and how do we respond to that. And then we were also able to see change by the second marking period, that we were already starting to see change with levels of, the referrals coming in for emotion management were decreasing. And we were seeing a shift to problem solving, which we know is the next, the next higher level of skill. And so as we did that, we were able to actually track that data and see that. And that also really helped to continue the relevance. It continued the buy-in with the whole staff and the community. And it allowed for us to continue to make effective change with kids.
That's very cool. It's great that you're seeing shifts in your data so quickly too. That's really encouraging. You also mentioned that y'all are doing daily morning meetings as part of your social emotional learning program. Can you talk a little bit more about the structure of those meetings, and I think particularly now that we're in remote learning, and there's a lot of schools that are going back to remote learning right now and might be looking to kind of to do some of that intentional community building. What is the structure of your morning meetings, and what does it look like specifically now while you're remote?
So one of the things we wanted to do when we knew we were returning this year virtually is we started with the morning announcements, because not only do we wanted to have that connection classroom wide, we wanted school wide. So we always do morning announcements, just to kind of bring everybody together, remind them we are all part of the same school, the same community, and we have a shared understanding of what's important to us and what we're all working for. And then we go right into morning meeting. So again, we have typically the classroom teacher and then another staff member there supporting morning meeting. And we're using, of course, the online resources this year. Last year, we used the paper resources, the cards. But that's a fantastic way for our students to begin their day with some opportunity to come together, to share, to do something fun, maybe play a fun game, and then launch into the lessons. And I think that data aside, one of the greatest things that I have seen come from these lessons are the ways that students have taken ownership of them. It's so interesting to hear them in class and saying, well, how can we problem solve this? Or to call out when reading a story, oh, this character showed empathy when they, this or that. So they are really, really paying attention to what they're learning, and I think really are feeling empowered. Empowered themselves, empowered to help others and support others. So that, I think, has been the greatest gift that we have seen, which always isn't captured within, a data chart, but really the practical use of this. And again, the issues we were seeing before was just are oftentimes with that frustration piece. They just couldn't pass through it, whether it was an academic task or an issue on the playground. It just stopped everything. Everything stopped dead in their tracks. And it was really hard to kind of get them back and get them to a place where they could begin to do some of that problem solving. But with the common language and the background support of all of those lessons, it gives us a quick in and language that we can use to really kind of tap into the best way to support them.
And how long did it take? And I mean, I agree. It's the best thing when you can start seeing the kids like taking what they've learned and applying it, and really seeing them sort of internalize the messages that they're learning in the second step program. How long did it take for you to get to a point where it's kind of starting to become your like part of your school culture almost?
I will say, because this was a new initiative, one of the things we do whenever we have a new initiative like this, again, my role is to kind of monitor the effectiveness of this and to really get a sense of how our students are responding, how staff and community are responding. So the way that we typically do that is we have our monthly leadership meetings, and this was always a standing item on that agenda. How are we doing? What are we hearing? What are our students showing? How's our discipline, attendance data, counselor referral data? And right away, the best feedback, again, in addition to the data that was, attendance and discipline, were the teachers' responses and just what, we thought, oh, it might take some time for buy-in, and this is a shift in their day. And it was within that first meeting, I think that first month, they came and we said, how's it going? What are you seeing within your classrooms? And it was all very positive. They liked the common language. They had always looked for ways to really connect with their kids, but the structure of this was, it just allowed them to do that class-wide, school-wide, and it was just something that we really heard some very positive feedback. And we also ensured that we presented this at back to school night and that parents were confident and comfortable with what we were doing in the language. Ms. Young did some evening and continues to do some evenings with our parents to teach them about second step and some of what we're doing. And that the feedback that we've received was that sort of right away, this was something that took off. And when we said to staff mid-year, what can we do to change or improve this? Really, the only thing they said is those additional staff members that were in classrooms said, hey, listen, I'm in a primary classroom or I'm in an intermediate classroom. We'd like to now swap because we want to hear what's going on at the other grades.
That's a really neat idea.
Yeah, so for our cultural arts staff who serve all students across the school, that showed us how valuable they found the program, that they wanted to have all the language and know all the lessons so that they could support all students.
Yeah, and I could just see that being, and it's not something I'd really thought of before in sort of how to support an implementation, but it gives people sort of a breadth of understanding of what, so if you're doing second grade, you kind of get an understanding of where kids are coming from and also where they're going, so that you have a bigger picture idea of why you're doing the things why you're being asked to do the things you do in any particular lesson.
And I think that excitement from the teachers very quickly flowed into the kids. I mean, I think the kids are using so much more reflective, they're using reflective language, and they're using this common language, but they also know that all of their teachers felt that this was so important, no matter what their role was in the school. And so it really did, very quickly take off, and kids were using language to describe their feelings, but they were using second step language with that. So
it's really neat. So we've just got a couple minutes left. And before we go, I always want to ask, what's one nugget of wisdom? You guys have done some really awesome work. What's one thing that you wish you'd known when you started this, or a suggestion that you have for other people who are in the same place you're doing, who are putting together, who are rolling out second step and trying to kind of embed it into the culture of their schools?
I would say that in addition to the school-wide being very kind of tactical about how you're doing this and ensuring that everybody's involved, that the data piece that Mrs. Young described, that was real. I mean, we could just very clearly see that the areas and what we had taught, we saw such a decrease in requests for counseling services from her in those areas. And then we saw that the skills we had left to teach were those areas that we still needed to work on. That was real. I think we felt like it was going well. We felt like we were really making headway with our students and they were taking ownership. But when we saw that data and continued to track it, I mean, that was something that was really, I think we all just kind of thought like, all right, this is really something that's making a difference for our kids. And here's the evidence. So that was a piece that I would recommend to any school.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, yes, I think having that data allows also for the school counseling perspective, it allows us to really think about where we intentionally need to be doing small group interventions and things like that. It really clarified exactly. I had transferred to this school last year, and so, I was learning the school. I had come from a different school, and making sure that we really drilled down to exactly what skills were needed at which grade levels, and really supporting that with small group intervention. And I think too, the excitement that was built, because this really was, sometimes when you present a new program to a school, to continue the relevance and to continue the excitement and the connection of the adults to the program also, I think that partnering up with other staff members so that we really did, this was a whole school initiative. And along with, the parent workshops and involving our community and asking our community, where are some areas that you would like some feedback and support on? But I think that data piece really helped us. As Mrs. Lambden said, it's taking that feeling that it's going well, which we often know is, that's a piece of information, but then being able to show data that says, here's where it's really making a difference, creates that significance that it really does make a difference. And we can see that within our own school in a really concrete way that really helps to drive that continued excitement. And we as a school continue to look forward to new ways that we will be expanding. I know this year, really expanding into the current need with the virtual learning, making sure that our students and our families at home also have, continue to have the skills that they need as well. But it really has created a very strong sense of community within our building.
Well, I mean, it's a great way. It's a great place to end this. I think that idea of just kind of keeping the excitement going is a really neat. It's a neat aspect of data that I don't always think of personally. I think of it as nice as evidence and things like that, but excitement about it, that's a really neat idea, and I appreciate you highlighting it. So I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate y'all coming to meet everybody here in the Second Step Educator community to talk about the work that you're doing. And just on behalf of everybody here in the community, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you for having us. We enjoyed it.
All right.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Right. And thank you all for watching, and we will see you all in the community. So until then, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.